There is a BBC correspondent, his name is Mark Lowen, who just posted a picture of him and his gay partner and a little baby in an airport. And this guy says, quote, "After 6 weeks in wonderful and tearful farewells to our incredible surrogate and friend, it's time to go home to Lisbon with our new family member, our most beautiful hand luggage. Canada, you are a shining light of democracy and equality. Thank you for letting us fulfill our dream." And he is fulfilling a dream. I have no doubt that Mark Lowen, this BBC correspondent, is fulfilling his dream of having a child with his gay lover. The cost of fulfilling that dream was ripping a baby away from his mother. That was the cost. And this guy, and many other people in this country, are choosing to pursue that dream, that fantasy, that delusion that two men can be the same thing as a man and a woman who are married and have a family and have children. Many, many men and some women are choosing to pursue that dream at the cost of tearing a newborn little child away from his natural mother. It's one of the worst things that you can possibly do to anybody on earth. If you've ever spent any time, if you have children yourself, if you ever spent time as a little baby, if you were ever a kid once, you might remember some of this. Little babies need their mothers. And when these very, very selfish gay men decide that they are going to put their own disordered desires, their disordered sexual desires, and their perfectly normal, well-ordered, natural desire for a family, when they're going to just mash those two things up, and the person who's going to have to pay the price for that is the little baby who gets robbed of his mother, that is a terrible, evil thing to do. And society obviously should not tolerate that at all. But you're not really allowed to say that anymore. We have to all pretend. We have to be just like, we talked about this yesterday on the show, all the people watching that transgender ice skater who's an older man, an older, out-of-shape man who's now pretending to be a woman and trying to skate around during an ice skating competition from Finland, and he can't really do it, and then he falls down and he can't get up. And that's kind of funny. It's sad, but it's funny. It's mostly funny. This is just mostly sad. And it is a reminder that people do not have a right to a child. When we're talking about family, when we're talking about procreation, the only people who can be said to have any rights whatsoever are the children. A child has a right to his natural mother and father, who are united together in marriage, in perpetuity. And marriage is an institution that unites husbands and wives for the good of the spouses and for the sake of the generation and education of children. Gay men have no right to purchase, to rent the wombs of poor women and to purchase the eggs of poor women and to create children with the express intent of robbing those children of their natural mothers. That's a really evil, awful thing to do. And I don't think that most of the people who do this even really think about it. I don't think Mark Lowen has ever really considered that too much. But nevertheless, it's a really evil thing to do. Babies need their mothers, okay? And some people have responded to this. They said, well, Michael, do you think that, would you say the same thing about heterosexual surrogacy? You sound like a big phobe. You sound like a big bigot. Well, look, it obviously is different. It is worse when gay men and lesbian women, and single parents for that matter, do this than when a married couple does this. But it's all bad. We should not be renting the wombs of poor women and purchasing the eggs of other women in some cases and creating children in test tubes to satisfy our own desires. It has lots of effects that people don't like to take account of, namely, it usually it involves the creation of lots of embryos, lots of little human beings who are then locked away in freezers forever and ever. But beyond that, it establishes the domination of technology over the origin and destiny of human life, and corporations over the origin and destiny of human life, and the state sometimes over the origin and destiny of human life, and that's a terrible thing to do. This is on the one hand a kind of cultural Marxism, a radical dismantling of our culture along new atheistic absurd lines. That's definitely part of what's happening. This is also capitalism run amok. The fact that we're now treating women as commodities, as places to be rented, and that we're treating eggs and sperm as commodities, and that we're treating little kids as commodities, our perfect, most beautiful new hand luggage. little pets, little toys, little dawdles to ornament our consumerist lives. Absolutely awful stuff. Don't do it. I'm sure there are people who have engaged in this who now regret it, and that's very sad, and you got to make the best of a bad situation. For people, I know there are plenty of gay people who listen to this show and who are considering these things. Don't do it. You might not realize how evil it is now, but it is evil. Do not do it. Have I made myself clear? I hope that I have. Speaking of children, Minnesota has just decided to legalize abortion at any point in pregnancy. This, according to Minnesota, quote, every individual who becomes pregnant has a fundamental right to continue the pregnancy and give birth or obtain an abortion and to make autonomous decisions about how to exercise this fundamental right. This is the Protect Reproductive Options Act. Every Democrat in the Minnesota State House voted for this, and every Republican opposed it, and the governor, who's a Democrat, says he'll sign it into law. This now means that Minnesota is in the same league as North Korea and Communist China when it comes to abortion. Much, much more radical than pretty much every other country on earth other than North Korea, China, and Canada. Canada actually is also there as well. Now, what the libs will tell you, what the pro-abortion people will tell you is, you fear-mongering conservatives, you like to pretend that abortions happen late in pregnancies. You like to pretend that there could be abortions in the 9th month of pregnancy. But that just doesn't happen. You're worried about a problem that doesn't exist. And the way that you know that this argument is completely empty and dishonest is that they changed the law. If this doesn't happen, why would they change the law? If this doesn't happen, why did they change the law to do this in New York? Why did they change the law in Virginia? Why did they now change the law in Minnesota? Specifically to legalize abortion at any point in pregnancy right up until the moment of birth. You should put that argument right back in their face. And you say, oh, okay, it doesn't happen? Good, then vote against the law. Oh, it's not going to do anything. The law is totally ineffective, isn't it? It's not going to have any effect in the real... Oh, it will. Why? Because it does happen. This reminds me of when Nancy Pelosi said that the wall that Trump wanted to build on our southern border is cruel and inhumane and a terrible thing to do and a violation of human rights, and also walls don't work. Hold on. Which is it? If the walls don't work, then the wall is obviously not inhumane and cruel and terrible and a violation of human rights. If the wall is all of those things, then clearly the wall works. It's got some effect. It's the same thing here. They are passing these laws because late-term abortions do happen, and the libs don't want to defend late-term abortions on the merits. So they say, hey, look over here, it doesn't really happen. This is a made-up problem. Don't listen to the conservatives. And then with their other hand, they're signing these barbaric laws into effect.